Hello, everybody. My name is Coach Mike, and welcome to my second episode of my masterclass U9 U10 coaching series. And today we're going to talk about a topic that's often overlooked in youth soccer, which is having a coaching philosophy. Now, a coaching philosophy essentially comes down to a set of values that you have as a coach, as an individual, and that will essentially transcend to your players, to your parents, to your coaching staff, and it essentially dictates the way that everybody reacts to any sort of situation throughout the season. It is also a set of values that you have in regards to different aspects of a team, which can include, playing time for players, importance of winning and losing matches, your general emotions and way of dealing with emotional responses on the sideline. And it is often overlooked, to be honest, when it comes to the youth level. We're mostly focusing, or associations are mostly focusing on, teaching you the basics, teaching you some tactics, and coaching philosophies are not really much of a priority in general. Now, just to give you an example, when I was a head referee, I used to manage about 25 or so referees per season. And every time there was this one coach who was playing, and this was at the house league level, we had about 6 or 7 referees on the fields who were fighting to referee his game. Now, we had some nicknames for him. We used to call him Mr. Sunshine. Some my referees used to call him Mr. Rogers, because he just radiated positivity the entire time. There wasn't a single time where he raised his voice, a single time where he expressed frustrations. And he used to teach his players, whenever they used to take a goal against them, to go see their own goalkeeper and give him a little hug or a little high five, and then go back to the kickoff. And it's things like this, small gestures like this, that may go unnoticed for players. Players are not going to necessarily know the impact that, going to see your goalie and giving them a high five after a goal, what it means to them. But he understood that he wanted to coach through positivity. He wanted to teach his players that regardless of whether they were winning, whether they were losing, whether they scored, whether they got scored on, whether they made a mistake, whether they had an amazing play, that if they looked at him on the sideline, he always was smiling, he was always encouraging. And to be fair, by no means was he the best technical, tactical coach in the league. And I think realistically, he was probably one of the bottom, not necessarily an incredibly tactical or skilled coach, but his team thrived, and they thrived through his positivity. So that was his model. That was his coaching philosophy. What he didn't have necessarily in skills and in tactics, he had it in a set of value. And that transcended, honestly, to his players, the way they reacted to situations. The parents never raised their voices, never even said anything to one of our referees ever. And that was a philosophy that he had. And it was unbelievable. And it just showed me at that point, when I met him and I supervised and even refereed some of his games, that you don't necessarily need to be the most outstanding technical, tactical coach. If you teach a set of values to your players, that is doing 90% of the job at this level. Players are going to be mimicking the reactions of the bench. They're going to be mimicking the reactions and frustrations of the coaches. They're going to be mimicking the reactions and feeding off the energy of the parents. Now, that this doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have any form of natural reaction to a call, to something that happens on the field. That is natural, but it's the way that you sort of catch yourself afterwards, and it's the message that you give your players. So an example of some coaching philosophies can come, there's a wide range of it. It can be from, again, just, being positive, showing, you know, um, sportsmanship. That could be a sort of a coaching philosophy, is having constant sportsmanship. There's also, when it comes to more tactical stuff and game time stuff, playing time. Um, what will you do with playing time? Will you give everybody equal playing time? Will some players get more time, some people less time? There's no right or wrong reasons. Obviously, at the youth level, we want to sort of give everybody more or less an equal chance, play them more or less in all the different positions to expose them to the different types of situations and skills that they're going to need to have and develop over time. But that all comes down to philosophy, right? So you're going to meet also a lot of teams that are going to have different coaching philosophies. Teams where, the best striker stays on for 90% of the games and scores 11 goals and doesn't come off. That's a coaching philosophy. That's a coach who may necessarily just care about winning. And that is a personal decision that, the coach is going to have. And it's their right. Whether it's right or wrong, that's really not for, anybody necessarily to judge, but it's how you react to these things. You're going to meet teams that are going to play their best players the entire game. You're going to play teams who have no sportsmanship. You're going to play teams that, are going to keep on a player who's going to score 6-7 goals, and they're just going to keep coming at you. And it's your coaching philosophy that's going to dictate how your team is going to react, how you are going to react to these sort of tough situations. And so I've always said it's a good thing to maybe just write it down. Write down 3 or 4 values that you want to instill in your players. Whether it's sportsmanship, positivity, respect, whether it comes to, if you knock a player down, help them up. At the end of the game, go and shake the referee's hand. Not taunting other players. Another thing, what I've always admire is when a team, when a game ends, the whole team goes to about the half, and then, we'll applaud, collectively the other team, win or lose. And it's things like this that will teach not only players, lessons on the field, but they're also essentially life lessons that they're going to keep for their entire lives. If they notice, if the reactions from the bench and especially from the coach are negative, they're very abrupt, and it's a lot of yelling, it's a lot of hands throwing, and it's a lot of negative reactions, that's what players at that age are going to think that is what is expected of them. Whereas if something happens and they look on the bench and the coach is, composed and gives a thumbs up and says, okay, calm down, it's okay, we got this. This is what they will be feeding on for the rest of essentially, their soccer career. And the earlier you start with these sort of values, the better players are going to become on the field, the better they're going to become better people, essentially, at the end of the day. So I would say write down, not too many things, 2 or 3 things that you yourself want to have, as a goal when you're coaching. And what do you want your players to take out of your behavior, your values on the bench? And I think those things are also really important to communicate with parents. Parents absolutely need to know what you expect of them. It's very easy for them to sort of lose themselves on the sideline, to start, critiquing the referee, yelling at players, telling players, what to do on the field when it may go completely against the instructions that you gave them. So it also comes down to giving the parents or letting them know what you expect of them. And that's often something that, coaches may not necessarily feel comfortable with. And I've seen a lot of situations over the year where things degenerate between coaches and parents because there's just not an expectation that is set of them. So I would say think about 2 or 3 things that you really want to teach the kids. And when it comes to a coaching philosophy, it does not have to come, and it almost shouldn't be anything tied to soccer skills or soccer tactics themselves. These are values that you're teaching that are outside of soccer, but that will reflect the way that they behave, the way that they are on the field. And the more set you are on your values and the more your players understand your values, the more cohesive of a team you're going to have, the more players are going to understand how to behave on and off the field. And I think you'll have a lot of success as a coach if you first and foremost decide what your philosophy is before you even start the season. So again, it was a pleasure. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments or feel free to message me. And we're going to start going a little bit more into the nitty-gritty stuff on the next episode. And this time we will be looking at what to expect at the U9 level with some examples, some videos that I was able to find on YouTube of some U9 games and sort of give you a preview of what to be expecting if you're coaching U9 this year or this season. So again, my name is Coach Mike. Feel free to visit my website, montrealsoccercoach.com. You can check out my blog and anything else that is on there. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And thank you again for all the work that you do. Take care.